Hi there, my name is Kay Moon, and I'm a Twin Soul Channel and Western astrologer. And this is a video about the Libra new moon occurring on October 6th, 2021 at 7:05 a.m. if you happen to be on the eastern seaboard of the United States. Please check a time zone converter for your local time. This new moon in Libra is occurring here at the 13th degree of the sign of Libra. It is also conjunct the planet Mars, which brings an outward projecting, assertive energy to it. It's also speaking in harmony with the Mercury retrograde energy, although very loosely. This new moon in Libra is sextiling Juno, the partnership asteroid here in the truth telling sign of Sagittarius. And it is trining Ceres here in the sign of the twins, which is Gemini. Because this new moon is directly opposite Chiron, and that's probably the Chiron Mars conversation here is the strongest energy at this lunation. It does lend itself to the surfacing of certain regrets in love, recognizing our relationship wounding, and having a sense of almost being lost in those regrets in love. And so let me just make a note here for us. What's nice about this is that the Martian energy in recognizing those regrets does poise us to be ready to do something about it. There could be just a little bit of resurfacing of the past, specifically because Mercury is retrograde, Chiron is retrograde in a relationship sign that's Libra for the new moon and the Mercury retrograde. So there can be a little bit of resurfacing of the past from relationships. It doesn't necessarily mean a past person coming back, although that certainly could be the case. This can also mean revisiting themes from the past in a therapeutic context, in an emotional context in your day to day living, mainly so that you can get the opportunity for the closure that you need and the completion that you need in a cycle. And then after having that closure and that completion, as we move through this Mercury retrograde cycle, there is an opportunity here to build something new. There's a new cycle that's possible with or without that other individual. If there's another individual involved in the circumstance for you. Okay. There's also a theme here. As I mentioned, some of this energy can get a little thick, it can get a little intense around this new moon. Because of the way the Mercury retrograde is operating, it's a very inward drawing energy. Even though Mars is direct, the mind is regressing. It can be going back, looking back over things. And with Chiron in opposition to the new moon, in opposition to Mars, Chiron, as Mercury walks backwards, there will be a moment in time where Mercury will oppose Chiron during this 3 week period of this Mercury retrograde. There can be just a tad bit of wallowing in our wounding, so to speak, really getting caught up in an ever repeating kind of emotional loop. And the point of this isn't because necessarily we really want to go back to the old situation. This is our subconscious mind's way of getting us to pay attention and see the patterns for what they've been, see the problems for what they are, and seek an exit from our version of the Ferris wheel here. There's also a little bit of a like spontaneous reactivity or like reactionariness here, where you may find you just kind of, at certain moments, especially During this Mercury retrograde, you find like just a sense of wanting to lash out or just shut down or just withdraw, like just suddenly and rashly take a different action. There could even be a bit of like a myopia about seeing our own pain from another person's perspective, where it's just impossible to look or see from the other person's perspective. It could be very difficult to get to, how do we put that? Common ground. That's such a common phrase, and I couldn't remember it. There could be a real challenge in getting to common ground because of the issue here with Ceres speaking in harmony to this new moon. There's a lot of great work done on Ceres by the astrologer Jessica Adams. I really respect her work. And if you're not familiar with her, I encourage you to check her out. She's done a lot of work on illuminating the Ceres themes. And one of the issues of Ceres or themes for Ceres is cyclical resurfacing, cyclical challenges, cyclical loss and life, loss and life, loss and life. And so this new moon on top of the Mercury retrograde and the Chiron opposing the new moon really does highlight some sort of repeated pattern here in the world of relationships. Now, Ceres is sitting in the sign of Gemini, so it's very unlikely, but certainly plausible that you may have a looping pattern with a Gemini in your life in the world of relationship. But what's more likely for most people is that there's a looping pattern in the world of Gemini tendencies. Gemini tendencies can be indecision, being in exploration mode, being double-minded about things, having a both and approach to things, wanting to have a foot in both worlds, never really choosing a path forward, waiting for other people rather than decisively deciding for oneself. These are Gemini tendencies in shadow that can cause relationships sabotage. And so, with Ceres in this particular placement, speaking to this new moon, these kinds of tendencies are really likely to come to the surface so that you can see once and for all where they are sabotaging the possibility of having relationships move forward. Okay. Um, there's also another energy here that's important. I'm going to talk about some of the other planetary energies, including what Venus and Pluto and Jupiter are doing in a moment. But I wanted to just kind of give you this overview first so that you understood where contextually where the energy for this period of time is going to go. Now, I will say that because the way this new moon is, the moon is going to move forward, Mercury is going to move backwards. They're both going to have a conversation with Chiron here. Normally, we would say, you can feel the decreasing of a moon's energy the further you get away from it, from a new moon or a full moon. The energy just naturally shifts in another direction. However, because the Mercury retrograde is going to meet up with the moon closer to Chiron and then bring some of these themes, maybe not closer to Chiron, but they're just all talking to Chiron and allow these themes to linger. The themes of this Libra new moon are inclined to linger for some period of time. And so you may notice as we move into fall, and especially because after Mercury retrograde, there is a post shadow period where the issues that came up during the retrograde then have the opportunity to get resolved after the retrograde, as Mercury walks down that same pathway again as it moves forward. These themes from this Libra new moon have the potential to really stretch beyond just this lunation and kind of be in the forefront of our activities and our work emotionally and in our connections with others over the next 3 to 4 weeks. So, as you're unpacking and unraveling and seeing what's happening at this new moon, pay attention to its applicability in the coming week's time, because there will be themes that carry over even into the next lunation. And it's just important to be aware of that, that we've got kind of this steady build of energy that's helping us clean up a lot of our relationship sector, starting with the Aries full moon 2 weeks ago and going into the next full moon, which I believe will be the Taurus full moon in 2 weeks' time. And so just keep that in mind, that you want to be paying attention, because there's a build here in the world of cleaning up relationships and getting to a new, like, kind of drier ground, safer ground, clearer platform to create relationships anew in 2022. Okay. Let me just make another note. We're going to talk about these other planetary energies in a moment. A couple of things that I want to share with the collective here before we go on. Number one, there's a beautiful course on shadow work that Charlotte of Happy Twins 1111 is offering. This is an incredible energy to do a shadow work course within, because with this energy, that shadow work course is going to give you the opportunity to fully unpack why there are certain patterns that continually repeat and what is our own participation in those patterns. What is it that we need to resolve? What is it that we need to heal, so that we don't have to keep having the same experience over and over again and thinking, well, maybe it's just me, maybe I'm just cursed, maybe, there's something wrong, but not knowing what it is. If you're really tired of some of the relationship patterns in your world, be it in spiritual divine connection or in family or soulmate relationship or with your kids or with your parents or your coworkers, if you're ready to get off your self-made merry-go-round, the shadow work course that Charlotte is offering will give you the opportunity to deep dive into some of the components of your thoughts and beliefs that are creating that problem to begin with. So I'm going to link that below for you. Still open for enrollment, and I highly recommend if the themes that I've already put forward about this new moon are resonating for you, get some support. Don't try to figure this out on your own, especially if you've been repeating the same cycle for years, or with the same person and it's just going nowhere. Get some support so you can get off the merry-go-round and go forward in another direction. The second thing that I wanted to share is in the community section on my channel, I put out a call for psychotherapists who are licensed, trained, degreed psychotherapists to help people with this kind of stuff, because many of these issues are psychologically based in trauma patterns for a lot of people. Trauma patterns in relationship, bad breakup, watching an unhealthy marriage between your own parents, never really getting over a particular heartbreak or devastation in that way. And there is a need in this community, the twin soul community, to have someone who has the therapeutic chops to walk people out of their mentally created prisons and into healthier relationship. And so, if you are a degreed psychotherapist, licensed social worker, you've got the background, the experience, and you understand the spiritual nature of ascension and being a twin soul, and you're willing to work with people who might be twin souls or light workers so that they can have a safe place to talk about these experiences and their spiritual gifts, please email me. I'm putting together a document for, again, trained psychotherapists, licensed, degreed psychotherapists to help people with this kind of thing. I've had a lot of other people email like, oh, I do energy work, or oh, I do this kind of healing, or oh, I do that, and I can help, and I can help, and I can help. I want to be really specific Um, in the world of, because most of the people who watch my channel are twin souls. And yes, energy work is helpful. But when you have either a chemical imbalance or a trauma in your world, a licensed clinician is going to help you rework the neural pathways to get to a place of solid wholeness and integration in a way that energy work on its own cannot do. It is helpful, but it's not the only solution. We have to have both. So, if I got, when I put the call out in my community section, more people than were psychotherapists actually emailed me. So I want to be very clear. We need psychotherapists, people who actually can work, rework the traditional models to include the twin soul experience, to include the light worker experience and the gifts that the Ascending Collective is coming online with, so that they can feel both not crazy, but also receive the healing that's required to help them put the fractured pieces of spirit and emotion back together for a solid mental playing field. Okay. My email is chrysalismoon@gmail.com. You'll find the email address below. By all means, email me. Let's see if YouTube wants to create a commercial break, and I'll be right back after this. Awesome. Okay. So I spoke earlier about how this lunation portends to closings and completions. I want to speak to that a little bit more. There's a reason why that this has more to do with closing and completions than the revisitation and ability to work out an old problem in a new way. Not only is it the Chiron energy here that's speaking to the lunation, but it's also the Plutonian energy here. Pluto does govern endings and completions, and it's speaking to this, the Mercury retrograde by square. And so with Pluto, governor of completions and endings, I like the fact that this is a huge opportunity to end old destructive patterns. Mercury square Pluto gives us insight into where did the destruction come from? Why is it like this? Can we be a different way? Can we think a different way? And then can we behave a different way in the third dimension? Pluto is sitting in Earth sign Capricorn and in the sign of structure. And so there's an opportunity for real insight here to find out, okay, where did this come from? Why is it here? What can I do about it? How can I change? What's the first step? And this is huge. This is breakthrough kind of energy, ending to either a pattern or inside of a relationship. And if the pattern itself can't be ended, for many, this period of time will portend the closing of a relationship itself. And so, just so that you can get to the next place in the world of relating for you. While emotions during this lunation can be quite intense, especially because we have Venus here. She is also in a sextile to Pluto. This does lend itself to very passionate, very kind of intense energy, strong feelings. And Pluto, and sorry, not Pluto, Venus is inside of Pluto's sign. Venus is sitting inside of Scorpio. And that is the sign of Venus's fall. She gives more of her shadow energy inside of Scorpio instead of her light. This too, because of shadow energies, does lend itself to endings. It lends itself to the surfacing of, in many cases, kind of karmic patterns that the only way to heal them is to walk away, to end the connection, to say, okay, that's enough. We're done hurting each other in this lifetime. So there can be some of that at this particular juncture. And where there's not that, the other way this can play out, in addition to passion running high and a little bit of ending energy, is this kind of joint magnetism and repulsion simultaneously with the surrounding energy pertaining to woundedness, and woundedness being really loud at this time. So it's like, on the one hand, you've wounded me, I've wounded you, and I'm so drawn to you magnetically. Venus, Pluto does lend itself to magnetic poles. This speaks very loudly to trauma bond energy. And so I'll let you guys Google that. I won't go deep into that here. But if that's something you are dealing with, this is, again, as I was saying, this is a great lunation to get help, to get support, get a therapist, get someone to work with. Um, there are people who are trained to help you extricate yourself from a trauma bond so that you can be able to come back to sovereignty and heal the wounding that makes you feel like you have to be in circumstances that are have proven time and again how unhealthy they are for you. Um, for a few people, this Venus Plutonian connection may lend itself to uh, what the Dowager Countess might call a secret assignation. And that would, in light of the wounded energy that's coming up here at this lunation, it's a little bit like, like sex addiction, almost kind of energy, or like, the energy of like, let me just get my rocks off with you as a way of feeling good, just feel good a little bit, some kind of way, any kind of way, so that I don't have to dwell in or sit in how bad my relationship wounds feel overall. It's a way of escape through sex. That's also a bit of the energy here. So there's a lot of shadow work opportunity. Like I said, if you're called to it, take a look at Charlotte's shadow work course from Happy Twins 1111. Link is below this video. I think you're going to find that it could be quite helpful if you already also are recognizing, like, these are some themes coming up in my world. I want to understand where they came from, and I want to understand, where are the advantages in my astrological chart to shift these things. The calendar is open for October. So if you'd like to book some time, there's a few sessions left at the tail end of October. If you'd like to book some time, we can look at it. The November is also opening. But as I mentioned, the theme from this lunation is going to be with us through the end of the year. And a lot of what's happening is a bit of relationship musical chairs so that we can find ourselves in right relationship as we get into the 6th year 2022. Okay, because there's a lot of stability in the 6th year, but it's a matter of, are you going to stabilize? If you're, familiar with the major arcana, are you going to stabilize in the energy represented in the devil card? Are you going to stabilize in the energy represented in the lover card? There's 6 cards. They both total to the number 6, but they are the mirror of one another, one in shadow and toxicity, one in light and sovereignty. You have the choice for where you are going to stabilize, but it may take a little bit of support at this time to uncover the roots of the pattern and what you can do about it. So if you want to go ahead and book a reading, you can. Those are available on my website. Link for that is also below. Okay. So with this Chiron piece here, there is a sense of ongoing not enoughness underlying a lot of the energy surrounding this lunation. And as soon as Mercury goes direct and Venus gets into the sign of Sagittarius, it's like the lights suddenly go on. The truth can no longer be ignored. And the reasons why we were being the way we were being, those things won't be ignored either. And that's also because The Jupiter and Mercury trine that's going on here, providing a lot of insight. Uh, they're bringing forward the truth at this lunation, even if you find yourself or your loved ones really caught in a toxic pattern or cycle. They know it, you know it, everyone around knows it. No one is unclear about it with the Jupiter trine, this Mercury retrograde. People may be unclear about what to do, but no one is ignorant of the pattern and this level of intensity that we're about to experience. The truth about it's going to be clear, but people may not necessarily know what to do about the truth yet. Okay. And so, um, that's one of the challenges here is, like I said, with this alternative energy, Venus sextile Pluto, you know, there's a little bit and so much pain with Chiron opposite the moon, this particular new moon. There's a little bit of like wanting to stick our head in the sand, rather doing whatever we can to not have to see it, ignore it. Let's pretend like that's not there. But even that comes from the conscious recognition that it's there in the first place. You can't pretend something's not there if you've already acknowledged that it's like you. How can I put this? Like the pretending that something's not there is predicated on the recognition that it's there in the first place. Um, so it's like we can kind of, there's a way in which there's this trying to avoid it. And that's also amplified a bit here by the way Juno is speaking to Neptune and square. There's a real willingness for now to ignore really blatant problems in relationships. Juno sitting in the sign of truth, but Neptune wants to dissolve the truth via the square. There's a real desire to kind of be like, can't we just pretend like this isn't a problem? Um, but the reality is, we can only squint our eyes to blur our vision for so long. Eventually, we have to go back to regular sightedness. And so, um, that period of time is coming. You can get the jump on it by working with a therapist. Many of you know I absolutely love the work from the Personal Development School with Thais Gibson. You can work one-on-one with somebody instead. You can do the shadow work course with Charlotte. You can talk to me about the roots of the issue inside of your astrological chart. Links for all of these things are below. But it's kind of the time for pretending the problems aren't the problems is quickly coming to an end. And as Mercury goes direct in the coming weeks, there will be no other choice but to kind of deal with the patterns that have been established and find ways to generate new ones. All right, as I mentioned, the calendar is open. If you've heard something you resonated with in this video, I encourage you to give it a like or subscribe. If you are new here, I'm here just about every new and full moon with an update for the Lightworking Collective so that you can understand the energies you're seeing around yourself and your loved ones. Take great care and bye for now.